and second graders. That would be Roger, Kaylee, and Stella. I am so excited for our next project that we're going to work on. I loved your backyard beautiful art projects, second graders. I thought those turned out fantastic. And Ron, I hope you had fun doing our Mondrian inspired primary color painting. Today we are going to start a 3-part Mexican folk art project. We're going to be talking about folk art and what that is, and we are going to create some folk art inspired projects. I ended up having 2 separate designs for my folk art. I've got my turtle and bird and my 2 brightly colored lizards. The supplies that you are going to need for this project include a pencil, an eraser, an ultrafine and a fine point Sharpie marker. That's what you will need, plus the white paper for this part. Eventually, we will be using chalk, scissors, glue, and Crayola markers. So that's what we're going to need over the next couple of weeks. Today, you're just going to need these. Before we get started on our project, we want to talk a little bit about what folk art is and look at some folk art from around the world. Before we get started creating our own folk art, I just wanted to show you some examples of folk art from a variety of other cultures and countries, what that looks like. Folk art is a kind of art that means art made by the people of a particular area, country, or culture. Now, each country has their own style or type of folk art. It tends to be designs or patterns that usually are fairly simplified, oftentimes lots of bright colors. I have a couple of pictures for you to look at. Here is a blue and white image, folk art from Scandinavia. And as you can see, it's a symmetrical piece of art. That means that it's the same on both sides. And it's a pattern. It's filled with all sorts of flowers and leaves and swirls and birds. And you can see that none of this is realistic. Folk art tends to be, like I said, simplified and decorative. The next piece I want to show you, this is some Swedish folk art. You can see this one includes color, not just blue and white. And then also we have some animals included. We have these horses. But again, you can see it's symmetrical, the same on both sides. If you folded it in half, you would see that it repeats on both sides, and again, just a fun and simple pattern. Now, I was specifically looking at Mexican folk art, and those were the kinds of colors and the styles that I've been working with, and that's what we want to focus on for the rest of our time of looking at folk art. This is an example of Mexican folk art. This is symmetrical as well. It's the same on both sides, and again, you can see it's very colorful, and it's a lot of florals and leaves and patterns, but it's very similar to the folk art that I just showed you from the Scandinavian region and specifically Sweden. This next piece is a Mexican poster from the 1930s, and you can see how that style of decoration was used in advertising. And it's symmetrical again, and we've got animals included and birds. I specifically want you to notice the birds at the top and the little sheep down at the bottom, and we have figures of people included as well. And again, the fun floral patterns. Now, folk art was not only done on posters and painted on flat pieces of material. Oftentimes it would have been put on bark, as you can see in this bird drawing or painting. This is not symmetrical, but again, it has lots of those patterns. And this was often done and still is done on thin layers of bark from tree. Now you can see that it is painted as well. This is Mexican pottery that has a folk art style with patterns that are repetitive. And again, all of those fun flat shapes. And then the last piece of folk art I wanted to show you, and you can see this is from a little store where you could buy textiles from the town. But this animal that we have in front of us is made out of wood, but it is covered in folk art designed beadwork. And so that same kind of fun pattern and repetitive symmetrical design, it was not only painted and printed, but it also was done and used in their beading. So this folk art is what is going to inspire us as we work on our animals. We are going to be adding lots of patterns and creating the shape of the animals that it doesn't have to look realistic. It can be fun and whimsical. All right, guys, we are going to start our folk drawing by doing a bunch of different animals. We are going to do our animals on our white sheet of paper. You are going to need your pencil and your eraser first. We'll work with the markers later on. I am going to kind of show you basically how to draw some birds in the style of some of the Mexican folk art, and maybe a lizard and a turtle. And if you want to do a couple other animals, that's completely up to you. But I want to take you through the steps of drawing some of these different animals. So I want you to, we're going to be cutting them out and kind of rearranging them on a background. You can use any part of the paper and that will work. We're going to start with our lizard, and I'm going to start by doing a triangle at the top. At any point, if I go too fast, I want you to pause the video so you don't feel rushed, and to take your time and then start it up again as soon as you get everything in place. There should be no rush. I've made two curved lines that come down from that triangle that I made. Right where those two lines join, I'm going to put two circles. Those are going to be the eyes of my lizard. I'm putting kind of little diamond shapes in there for the pupils. So that's the basic shape. We are now going to give them a little bit of a neck, and then we're going to kind of draw an oval. Now some of this, we're doing this with pencil so that we can erase some of that later on. Okay, so that's going to be the basic body shape, and then we're going to want that to curl up. So I kind of want you to make a swirl, but if you just do it with one line to start with, then we can go ahead and trace around it. And if you have to make the body a little bit bigger, you can. So I'm going to do some fun little legs, some little hands. So I've got two straight lines that I did parallel that are kind of horizontal. And I'm going to bring up two vertical, and then again we'll have those four little round spots. So we've got the two, and then we need to do the two back ones. And there we have it. We are going to be adding pattern and designs to our animals. So, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I might wanna, you just wanna get the basics in. And you don't have to do them like this if you don't want. I'm doing the lizards because they're common in the Mexican folk art that we've seen some of those pictures. I also am going to do a turtle. So like I said, you can draw along with me, but you need at least 3 animals. So I'm going to do a bird, a turtle, and a lizard. You could do 3 lizards. If you had a lot of fun kind of drawing this one, you could go ahead and do another one. For our bird, I'm going to do a half circle and basically a straight line that kind of comes up. I'm going to do a little wavy bottom and then like a big smiley face. And I'm going to connect that up to my curved line. On this line, I'm going to put a triangle. I'll put a line down it. I'll do my circle and then my dot. And I'll add the wings, which will repeat kind of the shape that I did in the back. So there you have 2 of our 3. Because our animals are going to be cut out, it doesn't matter how I draw them on my white sheet of paper. So for the turtle, I'm going to do a half circle and a line. So for my turtle, I've got my half shell. I come down. I have a half circle for the head. I got my one leg and my second leg. I like for our little turtle to be friendly. Now I've got some lines here that I don't need, so I'm going to go ahead and erase those extra lines. And we have our turtle then. Now I have enough space. So I got my turtle, my bird, and my lizard. I have enough space so that I can do, I think I'll do another lizard over here. And we'll do that same thing. We'll kind of do, I'm going to do a little triangle like we did on the very first one. And then I put kind of these curved lines. And right near where those meet, I put my circles for the eyes. And I can soften that part of the snout. I'm going to do a little area for the neck, which will curve into the cute little arms. So these are just straight lines that are parallel, and then we make those were horizontal, and then those are vertical, just like we did before. So I've got my kind of oval shape, and then from there, I'm going to do that swirly tail again, and I'll just trace around that to thicken that up. Again, we've got those horizontal lines, and then we come down with 2 vertical, and then we just put our little feet on like that. And we can end those with circles. And you can do that on all of them. You can clean up the lines with your eraser. The last thing that we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and trace our animals. So I'm using my fine point Sharpie marker. And you just want to be careful and thoughtful how you do it. If there are lines that you want to change, you can always erase them and fix them. Or you can trace over them and fix them as you trace. And then we'll be erasing all of those lines that we put in. Like I changed that a little bit so you can see the pencil lines that are left. But once I erase that, like this, then you won't see any of that. So it won't matter. Next week we'll be putting patterns in all of our animals and designs. Like we saw the folk art Mexican style and Scandinavian style folk art animals that we already looked at. Now I don't know why I did 4 feet on, little toes on one and 3 on the other, but I did. So I've got my lines and then they end with little dots. So I've got 2 of my 3. Turn on some nice music and go ahead and finish tracing your animals. We'll worry about the pattern next time. There you have it. We have at least 4 animals. If you decide that you want to include another kind of animal, you can go ahead and do that. You could add another bird. If you have room on your paper and you're not overlapping any of your drawings, then please add one more animal. We'll be adding decorations and bright patterns to these, and then we will be cutting those out and making a final project with them all together. So I hope you had fun. The last thing you should be doing is going in and erasing all of your pencil lines. You want your pencil lines to be completely out of the way once you have your marker on there so that you can see them. You can see your drawing plainly and you don't have to worry about those pencil lines getting in the way of the patterns we'll be adding. So there we have it. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing what you've done. Please post those on Seesaw. I'm missing seeing some of your work, so I would love to see it. Have a great week.